Good morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. Thank you for joining us today. I am Jeff Gamet. I'm your TextExpander evangelist. With me, I have David Sparks from XSparky. David, thank you
Hi,
for being
everybody.
here.
Oh, my pleasure.
This is going to be a lot of fun. Also, manning our chat room, our question room, we have Mike Leising from sales and Jeff Boner from our support team. And thanks to both of you for joining us today as well. And listeners, if you can hear us and see us okay, let me know in the chat room so that we know that we're not just pantomiming a presentation for you today. And looks like everyone can hear us okay. Okay, so this is our Power User Tips for TextExpander Users webinar. And David and I have a lot of tips to share with you. Before we get started, I'm curious, where are people tuning in from? We have a lot of people signed up, and I'm betting we have a lot of really cool locations. So let me know in the chat room. Oh, okay, this is cool. Boulder, Colorado. Shout out to Boulder. That's where I am. Germany, Kansas, Philadelphia, Sweden, Tennessee, England. Okay, this is awesome. Absolutely love that we're getting people tuning in from all around the world. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Okay,
I do know there's no one from Hawaii, which I totally appreciate and understand.
Well, yeah, I can.
It's prime surf time there right now. You know,
Yes.
Got to make your choices.
Yes, and I did have a few people email me before the webinar because they live in parts of the world where the timing just isn't conducive. They didn't want to be up in the middle of the night. Totally get that. So they asked me the same question. I'm going to answer for everyone right now, which is yes, there will be a recording of the webinar. After the webinar is finished, the video needs to process. Then everyone will get an email with a link so that you can go back and watch it again at your leisure. Also, if you know other people that you think would get value out of this webinar, feel free to share the link with them. It's totally fine. It's not like this is a secretive link. So
yeah. And also I would add to that Jeff and I are making all the snippets we're running today available, so you can download them and run them on your own.
Yes, that is true. They're available as a public group when you hopped into the webinar. Hopefully you saw the link. If not, don't worry, we can make sure everyone has access to that. In fact, I will make sure that that we have it ready for the emails that go out. So if you don't have it right now, not a problem. If you want to go find it, just go to textexpander.com and click on support, then click on the link for public groups, and you will find the Power User public group in that list there. Okay, so we need to dive in. And what I want to do before we get deep into a lot of the tips, because I know some of the people that are tuning in are new to TextExpander. I just want to make sure everyone understands what TextExpander is and does, and then we'll hop into the tips. So let's start by taking a look at my desktop. And there we go. If all goes well, everyone can see my desktop now. And what I have on the right, this is just a mail message window, and I'll use this for expanding snippets. And I'm using this simply because it's something everyone's familiar with. We all send email. And on the left here, I have the TextExpander application. And so let's take a look at some of our snippets that we have going on in here. And there we go. So this is a TextExpander application, and we have a list of the snippets and snippet groups that you've created on the left. And just to make sure everyone's up to speed on that, a snippet is simply text or a graphic or a form, something that you've created that you don't want to have to type repetitively, and you've assigned abbreviation to it. So instead of having to type the whole thing, you type that little abbreviation and away you go. And then you can organize all those snippets into different groups. And so let's look at how this works on the most basic level. A snippet can be something as simple as, say, your phone number. So if I were to type over here in the mail window, the abbreviation that I have for my phone number, dot phone, then you see the phone number appear automatically. And that could be something a lot more complex as well. But that's it at the basic level. So before we go any farther, I'm going to show people how to make a snippet. And let's see. So let's hop back over to the TextExpander application. And here we go. We have all our snippets and our groups on the left. We have a new snippet button at the top. We have a new group button at the top. And then here on the right, we have our snippet editor. So I'll start by clicking New Snippet. And now here in the snippet editor, I will type in my phone number. So here we go, 303-867-5309. And actually, I know that's Jenny's number. So instead of assigning something that identifies this as me for the abbreviation, I'm going to use Jenny's name. But since I don't want my snippet to expand when I'm not ready for it to expand, I'm going to put a semicolon in the front. I just like using punctuation at the beginning of my snippets because I know that I always have a space after the punctuation when I'm typing normally. So it saves me from accidentally expanding a snippet. So in this case, I'll do semicolon Jenny. There we go. Let's make sure I made a real snippet. Semicolon Jenny. And there we go. In mail, I just expanded that phone number. Okay, there we go. That's TextExpander at a very basic level. So hopefully people are up to speed enough to follow along. And if you have questions, please toss those into the chat room. And we have Jeff and Mike in there to help with answers. And then at the end of the webinar, any questions that David or I need to answer, then we will have time to do that as well. So David, I think that we can start with a cool TextExpander tip from you. How's that sound?
Let's do it, brother.
All right. So I just need to find you on my list. There we go. And we can now share your screen.
All right. So the idea Jeff and I had going into this is let's do this kind of like an old Western shootout. And we're just going to take turns sharing interesting snippets and how we built them. And the idea is we're going to try and make them increasingly difficult. So we're going to start with some more basic ones at the beginning. But just if you're in here for the power tips, just hang in there. We're going to get there. One of the things I do, Jeff, is rather than use a semicolon for my TextExpander character, I use X at the beginning. And occasionally that does run into a conflict. But the reason I use X is because I like to use TextExpander on the iPhone and iPad too. And I don't have to go to a different keyboard to trigger a snippet. So I used to use a semicolon, but I made the transition to X. So there's something exciting, I guess. The thing I've always liked about TextExpander is it's so much more than a text expansion tool. It's really a gateway drug to automation on your Mac and other devices. But particularly on the Mac, you can do so much automation stuff, and we're going to talk about that later. It comes up all the time on the Automators podcast and the Mac Power Users. But for my basic one, what I wanted to talk about is with the Mac Sparky Field Guides, I often get emails from customers, and they're all over the world. And I always thought it was fun to say thank you to them in their own language. So I started collecting these ideas. So just like if I heard there was someone from Germany, if I write German thanks, it just writes in the German thanks for me. And as soon as I did that, I started sharing it over at macsparky.com. If you go to macsparky.com/te snippets, you'll see a bunch of my TextExpander snippets that I've shared over the years. And I'm going to put more on the TextExpander database as well. But I built this series called Foreign Thanks. And it's just amazing. All these people have sent them to me. And every time someone sends me a new one, I add it to the list. Here's Arabic thanks, and then Here's Canadian thanks. This is my favorite, Canadian thanks. You know, it just works. Somebody once sent me binary thanks. So I can thank you in binary if I want. And all this is with TextExpander. So I'm kind of using the application as kind of like a crude translator app for me, because there's just this one word that I always want to write in different languages and I'm never going to remember them. But now I've got this database and we'll make this shareable, you know, and you can do what you want with it. If I wanted to add another one, you can see over here on the list, I've got my foreign thanks here. I'm going to hit new snippet and I'm going to put in Asante, which I know is Swahili thanks. So I'll say Swahili thanks. I think I'm spelling Swahili right. Anyway, there it is. And I'm done. So now if I go over here and say Swahili thanks, then I've got Asante in there. So this is we're going to get more advanced ones later, but I thought it'd be fun to share this one because if you do anything with people in foreign languages, why not be able to say thank you to them in their language? And you can do all that with a simple TextExpander snippet. And we're, like I said, we'll go ahead and make this whole collection available. If you've got other languages you'd like to add to it, let me know and I'll update it as well. And it'll be a lot of fun to keep this thing growing.
Okay, so I have one that I will share. Let me switch back to my screen real quick. And one of the common issues that that I've had is dealing with web forms and having to fill out the same web forms over and over again. And so the problem that I have is that, well, how do I actually make that happen without having to just manually type everything every single
Jeff,
time?
sorry to interrupt. Did you
Mhm.
get your screen switch? I don't see that your screen's come up yet, so I'll make sure everybody can see it.
Yeah, it should be showing up now.
There we go. All right.
There we go. Okay, so I just happen to have a web form handy right here. This one is very simple, but let's say that that this is something that I have to fill in all the time. Oh, here we go. I have to get my name in there and get my email address in, which I happen to have a TextExpander snippet for, and and then I have to type in and then click continue. Okay, so what I've done instead was set up a snippet that fills in the form for me. So what I need to do is start in that first field of the form, and then I have a snippet that's semicolon form. And now I get a little pop-up window where I can fill in whatever my message is going to be. Thanks for meeting. And when I click OK, this is going to jump through all the fields and fill them out for me. And then I can click continue and carry on. Now, if this is a form where I knew I didn't need to even go so far as to check it first, then I could even include the return that that sends the form off. So let me show you that snippet real quick. So here we go. Back over in the TextExpander application, you can see that that I have the snippet that tabs between each forms. So I will show you how we make that very quickly. Okay, so let's make a new snippet. And let me move this over so we can see what it is we need to fill in. There we go. Okay, so I know I have a field where it's first name, so I'll just type that. Now to tab to the next field, I go to the keyboard menu right here and choose tab. And that generates, when the snippet expands, a tab that will move me to the next field. I can put in my last name and I will tab again. Now I can put in my email and let's see. There we go. Now I have an email in there, and now I'll need to tab again to get to the next field. And so I'm just going to skip over that pop-up field that's there and tab again. That gets me to that inquiry field. Now from the fill-ins menu, I will choose multi-line field. And the only reason I'm choosing multi-line field is so that I have a bigger window to look at when I'm typing. If I knew I was just typing a few words, I would use a single line field. Okay, so now I just need to give this a name, and we'll just call it inquiry. Then I'll click OK, and there we go. Now I just need to give this an abbreviation. So since my original abbreviation was semicolon fill, this one I will make semicolon, or I called it form. So semicolon, semicolon, form. There we go. And let's see if my new snippet works. Okay, semicolon, semicolon, form. And this is looking good so far. Let's see what happens when I expand. There we go. And that's an easy way to set up a form that you need to use over and over on a website.
Yeah, just examples of where I use that, Jeff, is like I have to sign in to pay my electric bill every month with the electric company, and it's 6 fields. It's crazy how much data they want just to let me give them money. But so I created a snippet that does all that for me. Also, in my day job as a lawyer, I represent a lot of companies. I have to go into all these different Secretary of State websites, which is the same thing. You got to fill in all this data. Delaware's, California, different states, and so I've got one for each state, and it does the same thing. And the little time it took me to set that up first time, man, it just makes you smile every time. I was talking earlier about automation in TextExpander. This is a great example. You never have to log into that website again. It's just done for you. The only exception I would add is I don't put passwords in those fields because it's not stored in a way that stores passwords.
I think that's really good advice. I think passwords are best stored in a password management application. Yes.
But it's awesome.
Yes, it is. Okay, so you have another tip, and this is going to ramp it up from what I've done.
I got it, baby. I got it. So hand it over here. Let me show you some stuff.
Okay.
All right. The another one that I like is kind of like common email text or letter text that you use frequently. And I've got this one called X Hats here, and you can download it and play along. I'm going to run it just once so you can see it run, then we'll go back and I'll show you some of the stuff I did. So I just type X Hats, and then it gives me this fill in. And I'm sorry I can't make this text any bigger, but I think you can enlarge the screen with this platform. I'm going to say, Dear Jeff. So I put his name in, and you see as I was typing his name in here, it also showed up here at the bottom. So I'm customizing the letter both in the introduction or the salutation, I guess, and the as well as in the body of the text. And I'm selling him a hat, and I can choose from different ones. I think Jeff is definitely a Technicolor Fez guy in my head, in my
Totally.
world. Now, Jeff, you got a big head, a small head. What's your size head? What do we got here?
There are people that'll tell me I have a big head, but I think it's
Don't
actually
take that wrong. Okay, we'll say small. All right. And then let's say it's not in stock, it's out of stock. So I'll click this box, and I want them to know how I accept payment. So I'll go ahead and click that as well. Click OK, and then there's my letter to Jeff telling him about his order with his Technicolor Fez hat in a small size. It even thanks him again down at the bottom. And it's just a great way to customize getting common correspondence out, whether you're putting it on a piece of paper or dropping it in an email. So let me show you a little bit about how we built that with this snippet here. I'm going to make the window just a little bigger. And this is using the fill-in features of TextExpander. And this is one of the things it does so much better than standard text fill-in applications. So I have Dear here, and then it's the name, and it's Jeff's name. So if you just go to this little fill-in button here, you drop down, single line fill-in, and it puts it in. I'm going to give that a name. And the name is just the name of the variable. Oops, I did it wrong. Let me do one more time. Here we go. Fill in, single line, name. Okay, there it is. And then at the bottom, I say thank you again, name, and it's the variable again that I just typed in. So all I did to make that happen was once I created it, I selected it in the snippet. I hit Command C to copy it, and I went down where I want to drop his name in again. and hit Command V to paste it. So I'm not creating two variables. You could say, here's a variable for Jeff's name here, and then name 2 to require me to type it in a second time. I don't want to do that. I just want to type it in once. So I type it in once, it shows up in both places. Then you saw there was that drop down for hat type. Here, I'll run it again. Oops. I'll run it again here. X hats. We've got these optional selections here between types, and there's sizes. So if I just go here, you see it is a pop-up menu, and the name is hat type, and I've got the various sizes available here, and I can scroll through that list. If I want, I can add an additional one. Give me another kind of hat, Jeff.
Let's see. Do you have bowler in there?
Oh yeah, diamond edge bowler. How
Oh,
about?
even better. How about a beret?
Oh yeah, I like that. A fancy beret. So we click OK, and then I've got the pop up here. This one doesn't have a good name. It's size though. Here, in fact, let me just create that over again. So that's the size one. So I'll delete that, and then we're going to fill in pop-up menu, and we'll call this hat size. I like to make all my variables lowercase, and I don't know why I do that. And we'll say small, medium, hit the little plus button, and large. Okay, so now we made a pop-up for that. And then we've got the optional selections, and this is another fill-in. Optional selection. Oops, I want to put the cursor where I want that to be. I don't want that in a random spot. So I'll put an optional selection at the bottom. Fill in optional selection. We'll call this 10th order. Oops. Since this is your 10th order, you get 10% off. Click OK. And that's it. So now we can, and then, oh, the other thing I do at the bottom is I have this just additional comments field. And if I want to write anything in addition at the bottom, I can do that. I can add it in, and then you've got the name here again at the bottom. All right, so if we say X hats, there we go. I'm going to this time pick the fancy beret in medium size, and we'll say that it's in stock and that you have sufficient credits to pay. And since this is your 10th order, you get 10% off. And then, all right, thanks again. And I did something wrong when, I didn't paste that new variable down. I know that the tech support guys are watching me do this, just banging their heads against the desk, but I should have pasted that. So I'll do that again one more time. So it says, thanks to you again, but it doesn't have Jeff's name here. So what I need to do is select it. There we go. Paste it. Try it one more time. And it worked.
I can't wait to get my new hat.
There you go. It's in the mail, brother. It's in the mail. So this is an example of using some of the more complicated fill-in fields. As you can see, they really aren't that difficult, and you can find all sorts of uses for them. Another thing that would be fun with this, if you wanted to get real fancy, if this was an email, you could say, thank you. Whoops, I'm putting it in the wrong text box, Jeff. What's going on here? So I could go in here and say, thank you for your order. And then exclamation point, even though I don't like to use a lot of those, we'll go up to the keyboard, hit tab key, and you notice I'm not doing anything else. And I'm just gonna, no space, no carriage return. We'll just have it just like that. Now I'm going to pull over an email or Jeff I just happen to have on my other screen. What a coincidence. I'll say X thanks. Whoops, X hats. Confusing snippets. Again, we'll say this one is in stock. Thanks again. Click OK. And I did that in the subject line. What happened there? So I filled at the subject line, and that tab key jumped the cursor down to the body and filled it all in for me. Great way to automate email. So you get 2 for 1 in that one. You think you can outdo me, Jeff?
I'm going to do my best. Let's see what I can do with some dates.
All right.
Okay, so let's say that that I want to make dates happen in my snippets without me having to look at calendars to figure that out. So I happen to have a snippet that that I'm calling date math because we're going to play around with some dates. All right, so when I typed my abbreviation, which was semicolon date math, you can see that that I've created a form here to fill in, and it starts with today's date. It has a little fill in where I can type in a name. There's David, and let's click OK. Okay, so I can see that it filled in today's date for me automatically, and that's where I had my fill in where I could type in David's name. And then right here, it says, let's schedule our follow-up for Monday at 11 a.m. And so that's 4 days from now. Okay, so how did I make that happen? Well, here's what the snippet looks like over here. So let's reconstruct it in TextExpander. Okay, so I'll make a new snippet by clicking the new snippet button. And we'll start by creating this date element right here at the very top. So I'm going to click on the calendar menu and I will choose the month. And I have several different formats that I can choose, but I want this to look like I actually typed out the whole month. So I'll choose that. Then I'll hit a space so that that I have a space between the month and the day, and then I will choose how I want the day to appear. Having it always appear as a 2-digit number, for some people that looks kind of weird, so I will choose the 1-digit version, which means that if it's a number between 1 and 9, you will only see that number. Once you hit 10 or higher, then you see both digits. Okay, so let's put a comma after that and a space. And then I'll go back to the calendar menu and I will choose the year. There we go. So what we've just done was built the month, the day, and the year, so it'll look like this over here. All right, let's build the next part. We'll say hi space, and I want to put someone's name in. So I'll choose fill-ins and single line field because I know that I'm not going to be typing something really long and I don't need to see as much on screen. And I'll just call that name and click OK. I'll do a comma, return. It was great meeting you today. Let's schedule our follow up for, there we go. All right, so now I want to have a day that's in the future. So let's start by actually getting the day in there. So I'll go back to the calendar and I will choose the day spelled out. Okay, now that we have that, actually what I want to do is choose a date in the future. So let me move the cursor right before the date element that I'm using. So in this case, I'm using the day of the week apart from the date. And now I need to choose the calculator menu. And from here, I can choose to add or subtract from that date. So I think what I want to do is add days. And we'll say, let's make this 4 days in the future. I'll click OK. And I'll move the cursor after that. So now what I've done is I've set this up so that I have date math happening, 4 days in the future. That will be what this day shows as when the snippet expands. I'll hit my space again so I can keep going. And let's go ahead and add some time in here too. And what time do we want to meet? Well, let's click on the clock menu and let's choose, let's just let it pick whatever hour it currently is. So I'll say that, but since I'm using a 12-hour clock instead of a 24-hour clock like I usually use, we need to identify if this is AM or PM. So I need to go back to the clock menu again, and I'll choose AM, PM from there, period, and then we'll say Thanks. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something that I saw you do a little bit earlier, David, which is nest a snippet. So I'm going to nest a signature in here, and let's nest in one that that has a full signature. So I went to the keyboard menu. I'm choosing Insert Snippet, and I need to have a signature snippet. I happen to have one called ;sig. So I type in the abbreviation for that snippet. We'll click OK, and there we go. I've just added in a little bonus for my my date math, because I am trying to stay ahead of you. All right, so let's call this one semicolon date math. And actually, here's another little bonus for you. I happen to know that this signature file has a graphic in it, which means that I need to change the content type of this snippet to formatted text and pictures. Otherwise, that graphic isn't going to show up, because the plain text setting for this snippet would override the formatting of the snippet that I just nested. So let's come back over to mail. Let's delete out what I have there. And let's type our new abbreviation, semicolon date. Let's try it again where I don't have typos, semicolon date math. And you can see right here, I have my snippet. I'll type in David's name, click OK, and we can see that that sure enough, here's today's date. Today is Thursday. 4 days from now is Monday, and that's showing up right there. And there's that nested snippet with a phone number and a graphic embedded in it as well. All right, David, can you do better than that?
All right, brother, I'll try. One of the things you did there, switching to the rich text and pictures, or formatted text and pictures, I know that for me, I try to keep them in plain text as much as possible, because when I run these snippets and applications, I want the text to adopt the formatting of whatever application I'm running it in. I often use them in like Microsoft Word or Apple's Pages or even Apple Mail, and I just want it to adopt the formatting. So for me, the formatted text snippet is the exception, not the rule. I don't know how you do it.
For me, it's the same. I tend to use plain text for all of my snippets, so that whatever formatting I'm using in whatever application I'm expanding a snippet in, I will see the text with the formatting that I expect. Now, when I'm doing something like I just showed, where I want to include a hyperlink or a graphic, and I know that I have to use formatted text and pictures, well, there you go. I have the option open to me.
So I've got a weird one here. This is a quick one, but it's one I use a lot. I try to catalog receipts and expenses as they come in. And I use this one. This is a TextExpander plus Hazel trick for me, because Hazel is a different app that does an automation where it can look at file names and then move them to specific locations on your drive. And so I just want to name them quickly. And I found it really tedious for me to take a file, and this is just a little screenshot of a PDF I made while Jeff was talking, but to type in today's date, and then did I get it wrong? Is this actually today? And then you got to write in a bunch of stuff. So what I do instead is either in the Finder, or I can even do it here on the desktop, I hit return, and then I use TextExpander to rename the file. So this is XMSE for Max Sparky Expense. And when I type that, then it says, all right, what's the description? And you'll see, using some of those variables and cards we talked about earlier, it's got the year, the month, the date, the time, because sometimes I'll get like 2 or 3 Amazon receipts on a day if I lose self-control. And then I can type in a description, and I'll say this is the TE seminar, because I don't want to have a problem later. And then this is Max Sparky Expense, and just that word Max Sparky Expense is all Hazel needs to do its work. And then I click OK. Now I've renamed that file with a TextExpander snippet. Now, and I keep those in a specific folder on my drive that Hazel's always watching. And whenever it sees that magic word Max Sparky Expense, it puts a copy of it into my expense folder, and it mails a copy or puts a copy into a shared Dropbox folder with my accountant, so she sees it as well. It's just a really quick way to get accurate names. I mean, one of the things you like about automation is it's fast, but you also like it because it's always accurate. And this is an example of using a text expander snippet for a quick automation to make sure everything, it's almost the accuracy that's more important to me here than the speed, but it is also faster. So it's a real simple one. You can download it and change the description from Max Sparky expense to work expense or whatever makes sense for you. But if you do need to catalog your expense receipts, this is a great way to do it.
I'm going to add to that a little bit
Go
because
for it.
I think this is awesome, and it's a type of snippet that I've been using for a long time to make sure that I don't overwrite files, that I keep consistent file naming, but I
Mhm.
also have used it to set up layer names in Photoshop so that
Yeah,
I'm not having to try and remember exactly how I want to standardize my file or layer naming every time I go to make a new layer in a Photoshop
yeah.
document.
And you could even, if you wanted to add on to that, with Photoshop, I believe there's a keyboard command to make a new layer. So you could run the name, then the keyboard command to make a new layer, then the name. You could like fill out all your common layers with one text expander snippet.
Oh,
That's
that's
an
true.
audible. Would that work? Would that work? I
Th-
think that would work.
I think that would work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
that's very cool. All
What do you got
right.
for us?
All right. So I'm going to show a little bit of automation right here. And I'll preface this with uh, Text Expander is available for Mac. It's available for Windows. It's available for Chrome, and it's also uh, available for iPad and iPhone. This specific uh, snippet I'm going to show you, this one is limited to just the Mac, although everything else that I've been showing is totally cross-platform. This one, however, is Mac specific because it is an Apple script. And this Apple script lets you actually perform or control something directly in the Finder as opposed to working inside a document. So in this case, I have a snippet that runs an Apple script that will change my Mac from light mode to dark mode and back. So the abbreviation that I have for this one is semicolon dark. And I typed that while I was in the Finder, but without anything actually selected. So that's how TextExpander knew this was something that was operating on the Finder level. So I'll type that again while I'm in the Finder, semicolon dark, and there we are. We're back to to light mode, which for me I kind of like better. Um, so let's hop over to TextExpander and take a look at this snippet. So what I'm going to do is just copy this so that we don't have to spend the time to completely recreate this Apple script and watch me end up putting syntax errors in here. So here's how we would make this. We would start by making a new snippet, and then I went to change my content type to AppleScript, and you can see that there's other script options in here as well. But for this specific case, it's AppleScript. So change my type to AppleScript, and we'll paste that script in. And because TextExpander knows the content type is AppleScript, it even does syntax highlighting for me. So that's really nice. Okay, and then we give this an abbreviation. So I'll call this one semicolon, semicolon, dark. And now here I am in the Finder. Let's make sure I did it right. Semicolon, semicolon, dark. Sure enough, and we'll change it back. So that's an Apple script you can use in the Finder to switch between dark mode and light mode, and other things that you can control from Apple script in the Finder. You can do that in your snippet as well. All right, how was that, David?
That's good. I like that one. I didn't know you could do that.
Oh, well, it's in the public group that we're sharing with everyone, so
Yeah.
you won't even have to write the script.
That's the best Apple script, the ones you download. I've got one that's a little odd. As a lawyer, quite often you see these legal pleadings that you get, and then lawyers write their allegations. And there's a way you can ask questions about it. And one of my favorite things to do is say, give me all the facts, documents, and witnesses that support your claim. So this is a sample legal pleading. You got some numbered paragraphs here. And then I pick the specific allegations they have. And I'm using the clipboard here. And I'll show you what it looks like in a minute, but it's just I'm gonna hit Command C to copy the allegation that the dog ate my homework. And then I'm just gonna go up here, and I'm gonna use the term is interrogatory. So I say XROG, and it says, what is the number? Well, that's number 6, you see right there. So I'll type in number 6, but it took the contents of the clipboard and it's inserted it throughout. And then I get it, the text once again exactly right, and it creates the interrogatories for me. So the facts, the documents, and the persons that have evidence of their allegation that the dog ate my homework. And then as I'm going through, this is super fast. I just go through and I pick the allegation, copy the clipboard, XROG, number 7, and I just made 3 more. You can see this is stuff that lawyers sometimes have paralegals and they spend hours putting this stuff together. And I can do it so fast using TextExpander. So let me say XROG again, and that's paragraph 8. Click OK. And so I just made 9 special interrogatories using the clipboard. So how did I do that? It's not that hard. Here is the snippet right here, and this is another one you can download. I think this is a very lawyer thing that not a lot of people aren't lawyers, aren't going to need it, but at least you get an example of using a clipboard. And all I'm doing is taking this.
Hey, David, we can't actually see your screen.
Oh no, that's no good. Okay, I got to do it again then, Jeff. All right, show my screen. I forgot to confirm. I'm sorry, gang. Let me do it one more time. Just hang in there. And the people who are watching the video are really mad right now because this is recorded, so you'll be able to download it. But here's the text, right? And so you heard me talking about it. I've got an allegation here. My dog ate my homework. I'll hit Command C. I'll type XROG, and then the paragraph number is right next to it. There it is, the number 6. So I'll go ahead and type in 6, hit OK. And then I just created these 3 interrogatories. And the process of making them is super easy. All I'm doing is copying the text the other lawyer wrote to the clipboard and then typing XROG in my document. And that's paragraph 7. And you get it. I could do the same thing with these pretzels are delicious. But I just made 6 of them just using this clipboard. If you ever work on that, if you're doing sales presentations and you're always using a contract number or anything where you've got some detailed information that you want to make sure is accurate that you're using multiple times, you can just grab the clipboard. And this is the command here. You can see it in this snippet. You just go to, which one is it under? I always forget. There it is under the keyboard, clipboard. So you just type clipboard and it just grabs the contents of your clipboard. And you can see in this case, I'm using that command 3 times because I've got 3 different questions that are using the exact same clipboard. And this is something that saves me huge amounts of time when I do this type of work. And I've got many, many snippets that use my clipboard. So if you have never done that before, think of a few places where you could use this trick and put it into place.
Okay, I think I can totally top that.
Okay, all right.
And there we go. We can see my screen. Okay, so I showed date math already. And what I want to do is take date math to a new level now, and we're going to do that with JavaScript. And snippets that you make using JavaScript, those are cross-platform compatible, so you can use those on Mac, Windows, Chrome. You're fine. Okay, so let's say that we have that date math snippet where we wanted to meet a few days in the future, but I want to make sure it's never on a weekend. So I have a new snippet that does that. This one is S date math. There we go. And you can see this looks a little bit different because you can actually see some code in here. So type David's name in there, and I'm still doing the 4 days in the future. There we go. So now I have a snippet that shows today's date, and make sure that whatever date we are choosing in the future is 4 days out, unless it's on a weekend, and then it will be the Monday after that. So there we go. How do we actually make this happen? Well, for this one, Let's hop back over to TextExpander, and here's my snippet for that. So you can see that date math that we've done before. Down here, it looks sort of the same, but not exactly the same. And that's because right here, I am using a nested snippet that has JavaScript in it. So let's take a look at that real quick. Okay, so this snippet right here is JavaScript. So to make this work, we had to set the content to JavaScript so that TextExpander knows what type of code it's going to run. And this code that's here, this is in the public group, so you don't have to go and recreate it. I will show you very quickly what it's doing. It's figuring out what the date is, and then it is moving 4 days in the future. And then it has this section right here, which figures out if it's a weekend day, and if it is, then it moves us to the day after that. Okay, so this element right here that I'm highlighting where it says +4, that's the part where it's getting 4 days in the future. So if you want to go and play with this and change the date, or the days out that you're going with this snippet, this is where you will make that happen. Okay, so how would we actually build a snippet like this? Well, we already know what it's going to look like because that's it right there. Let me show you real quick how we would recreate this. So we would start just like we did before. Let's put that month in there. Let's get the day in there and the year. And so we did all of that by going to the date menu, and then we'll say hi, and we'll go to the fill-in menu and choose single line field name. There we go. Now we can customize this message for whoever. And let's get our message in. It was great meeting you today. Let's schedule our follow up for, and this is where we need to get that snippet in there. So in this case, it's okay for me to leave this as plain text, even though we're putting we're nesting a snippet in here that has JavaScript in it. So we'll go to the keyboard menu. I'll choose Insert Snippet. We know that the abbreviation for this script is semicolon for days. There we go. And now I'll put the date in just as if I had used the regular date math options from the calculator menu. Okay, so let's choose a day of the week. There we go, Monday. And just to save time, I'm not going to put the rest of the date in, but let's go ahead and put that time in there at, choose the clock, and we'll say hour, and then we'll choose AM, PM, period. Thanks, Jeff. And let's give this an abbreviation, semicolon S date. There we go, that should work. Let's see if I set it up right. Semicolon S date. Oh, this is looking good so far. David, let's see if we've got a date next week, and there we go. We're set up for our meeting on Monday.
Impressive, Jeff. Impressive.
Thank you.
I have one more that will improve on that one.
Awesome.
All right, let me make sure I push the button this time. Show my screen. Everybody can see it okay?
Looks great.
Okay, so this is an Apple script that I put together with the help of some friends. It's I'm not going to go through how it works because it's too complicated. But what this does is using the Apple Mail application, it looks at the recipient of the message and grabs their first name. So rather than having to do the fill in where you type in the person's name, this will do it for you automatically. So, and the snippet is just XNM, X name. So if I go down here and type XNM, it says Jeff because it got Jeff's name from the top of the message. And this works very reliably. So now that I've got this Apple script built, I am running this Apple script from within other snippets. And the example I've got in the downloadable series is hi, X name, comma. So you would say, and the snippet for that is X hi. So if I just type X hi, this is hi Jeff. So every time I write an email to a person, I can just type X hi and it'll grab their name and fill it in automatically. And it's just a great thing to have in your pocket. I use it all the time, especially when I'm writing someone with a name that's got like accented characters. If they're in the name in the mail application, it'll get it right and put it in for you. It's just a great way to speed up something. And then you can look at every snippet you write that involves writing an email, like the one Jeff was just working on, and you could incorporate this Apple script in and have it automatically name the email as well. And I just wanted to, somebody had written in one of the questions, can you clone or duplicate a snippet? You absolutely can. So I've got this one here that says X hi, the one I just ran. I'm going to right click on that and say duplicate. And then I'm going to go up here, instead of say hi, I'm going to say yo. I'm going to be cool. There we go, yo. So then I'll change the abbreviation to XYO. And if I go down here into the email, I type XYO, it'll say yo Jeff. So you can do this. In fact, I have more. X hello is another one that I use. So you can, change it to match the tone of whatever you're writing. But it's all using this little clever Apple script and automation to grab the name out of the email and install it. And this is in the stuff we've got to download with the course. So go ahead, install it, start using it. Unfortunately, if you're on Windows, it won't work because this does use Apple script. I don't know if there's a way to do it on Windows. Maybe the TextExpander geniuses have a workaround. I'm not sure, but it works great on the Mac, and I use it every day.
There might be a JavaScript solution, but that would go above my skill level
There
for
we
that.
go.
Okay, that's really awesome. And we have a few minutes left. Jeff and Mike, do we have any questions that we should address before we wrap up?
There was one that came up a couple times, just to reiterate some of the resources, and David, specifically your reference to your snippet specifically. So maybe just highlight that again.
Yeah, well, sure. Well, all the ones that we're sharing today are going to be in the downloadable set that Jeff is setting up in relation to the course. I have got some over at the TextExpander site. I've got to get all of them over to Jeff, and they're going to be at the TextExpander site. But years ago, before TextExpander had the sharing, I just set up a page at maxsparky.com/TE snippets, and there's a bunch of my TextExpander snippets there you can download. And I will be, I need to get them all to TextExpander because they have the ability to share them much easier than I do. I've just been lazy, but that's on the list.
That's okay, but we can get you taken care of. And just so everyone knows, that snippet group with all the snippets that we've been working with today is available right now. TextExpander.com/support. Click on public groups and look for the Power User Tips public group. And when you subscribe to it, it'll just appear automatically in TextExpander for you. And then you have all these snippets that you can play with and edit and figure out what other cool things you can do. Okay, do we have other questions?
Yeah, this really is a starting point. I mean, those ones we made, some of them are highly customized. Like, I don't know how many of you want to write interrogatories, but once you get the idea of how the clipboard can work, you should be able to use that to build your own. And that's where the magic really happens.
Yes, and I'm actually seeing a question that I'm just going to take without asking Jeff or Mike if they have it for us, because it's a question that comes up a lot, and it's, what do I do when I have a ton of snippets and I can't find the one that I want? I'm totally paraphrasing the question, but I know that's what it is. That's called inline search. So this will work anywhere that you can use keyboard shortcuts. So on the Mac, inline search is Command/. On Windows, it's Control/, and on Chrome, it's Control period. So let's say that I need to find a snippet that relates to conferences, when I'm talking with people at conferences, so that I can send them an email. And what I would do is, since I'm on the Mac, Command/, Control/ on Windows, Control period on Chrome, I'll type my keyboard shortcut, and you can see I get this little search field right here. And now I can type in something that I know is part of the snippet. Maybe it's part of the abbreviation. Maybe it's a word that's in the snippet itself. Maybe it's a label that I've assigned. But let's see, let's type conference, and I can see there's a bunch of options that come up. So I could find the conference that I'm looking for, and then just select that from my list. And let's say that in this case, I just needed the name, Worldwide Developer Conference. There we go. And that's how you use inline search. So that's Command/ on Mac, Control/ on Windows, and Control period on Chrome. We have a couple minutes left. Do we have any other questions we should hit?
In the beginning, someone asked about TextExpander on iPad and doing emails on the go. So if you wanted to talk about that.
Yes, you can definitely use TextExpander on your iPad. Here's the deal, and this is a limitation that Apple has put on developers. Your external keyboard that you're using on your iPad isn't going to work unless you're using an application where the developers intentionally went and added in the TextExpander hook API that we have, so that their application can talk directly with TextExpander, then your external keyboard works. So the short version is you'll end up having to use the on-screen keyboard for most applications, and you'll have to make sure that you've enabled the TextExpander keyboard. So when you install the TextExpander application on your iPad, the TextExpander keyboard will be an option there as well. And you can choose it just like you would any other third-party keyboard, the emoji keyboard, whatever, and then you can expand your snippets on your iPad. And so, of course, that'll work in Mail just like it would work anywhere else you could type.
I have a sort of goofy workaround for that. I like the application Drafts, which has embraced TextExpander and uses TextExpander snippets. And I like writing my emails in there because then I don't see the inbox. I can just write the email and it avoids the distraction. But on the way Drafts works is the first line you write is the subject line of your email, and everything below that is the body. So where I showed you that cool tab trick I had above for writing emails on the Mac, I use the prefix IX for iPad X, and I duplicate my snippets. And instead of tab keys, I just have a carriage return. So I can write an email. I just type IX and then the shortcut for the email. It writes it out in Drafts, and then Drafts has a send to email, and it uses the carriage return to separate the subject and the body, and it works just fine. I know that's not ideal. Some people want to write the email in the Mail application, but this is the workaround I use, and I'm actually pretty happy with it. Like I said, I do like the idea when I'm writing my emails to not be caught up in the emails that are incoming. And it's not perfect because when you're replying to an email, if you want to do inline replies, it doesn't really work. Another way you can do that on the iPad, if you've got a big enough iPad, you can have split screen, where you can have TextExpander like in the right 1/3 and the email application in the 2/3, and you can use the TextExpander snippets in the TextExpander app and copy and paste over. I really wish Apple, I just don't understand why they don't make that keyboard, the attached keyboard, able to run TextExpander snippets, but neither of us are Tim Cook, so we can't fix that for you today.
Yeah, if only we could.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. We have about a minute left. So do we have a short question that we can answer?
Someone asked about just your most used snippets. So if you wanted to just run through a few of those.
My most used snippets, my phone number, my name, my email address, and those are all small, and they're not sexy snippets, but they save me so much time every day. I do have another snippet that I use a lot. We're still sharing my screen, so let me show you this one. I have a snippet that I set up for the TextExpander website, but it could be any website. And it's the URL with the places on the TextExpander site that I want to go. So my abbreviation is semicolon, semicolon, TT. And you can see I get this this pop-up right here where it has textexpander.com, and then it has a pop-up where I can choose exactly where I want to go on the website. And it even has a return at the end. So when I click OK, I don't have to hit return in my web browser, and it takes me directly to that website. And that's an easy one to set up. You just set up your URL and then choose a pop-up from fill-ins, and then put all those paths in as those options and assign it an abbreviation. There you go.
I don't think I could claim one child as my favorite. I will say that I use TextExpander a lot. I just hate typing things more than once. I have a snippet that when my kid gets sick for sending the note to school, the email, I use a snippet for that, and I have drop-ins for flu, the common ailments, because if I have to deal with that, I want it to be as quick as possible. I have snippets that write large chunks of contracts. I have them that deal with a lot of the customer support stuff for MaxMarkey. And you saw earlier, I name files with snippets. I don't know that I have one that I use the most. It just kind of depends on what mode I'm in. But I can tell you I have a lot of them. And that little trick Jeff showed you earlier about the keyboard shortcut to search your snippets, I use that daily. So.
All right. We are out of time, so we have to wrap up. David, thank you so much for joining me today and teaching me new things.
My pleasure. You too, Jeff. And I hope everybody that joined in learned something today. If you got one good thing, hopefully it was worth your hour. And thanks for tuning in.
Yes, and thank you to Jeff and Mike for watching the chat room for us, because that was a huge help. So thanks to both of you. And for everyone that tuned in, thank you for joining us. This has been awesome and so much fun. And just a reminder, yes, you will get a link to the webinar recording. Once it's done processing, the emails will go out, and you can watch it again at your leisure. And if you know anyone that you think could get some value out of this, feel free to share the link with them. It's totally fine to do that. And we do have more webinars coming up. We have our beginner webinar coming up soon. We have our advanced user webinar coming up as well. And then we have co-webinars coming up with companies like Help Scout. And so we have a lot of content coming up for you soon. So be sure and check out our website and sign up for everything that looks great to you. And thank you everyone for joining us. And we'll see you again at the next webinar.
Bye, everybody.